I have a headache. I am my body. Our language reveals an invisible process where our sense of self fuses with a temporary physical condition. This is over-identification. It occurs when we attach pure, formless awareness to an operational subsystem, such as a biological body or an emotional reaction. When we fuse our identity to a specific subsystem, we inherit its specific vulnerabilities. A temporary failure in the physical hardware or a negative feedback loop in the emotional processor becomes a direct threat to the self. Ancient Vedic scholars mapped these exact cognitive boundaries over 2,000 years ago. This palm leaf manuscript, the Taittiriya Upanishad, provides a rigorous taxonomy of these human subsystems. It outlines the Panchamahakosha, or the 5 shis, a schematic designed for decoupling human identity from transient biological and mental outputs. Seen through this lens, psychological suffering is a systems architecture error. It is a mistake in how we categorize the data of experience. This diagram represents a common misunderstanding, seeing the self as a solid core beneath layers of an onion. We imagine that if we strip away the body and mind, we will find a concentrated dot of true identity at the center. We need to shatter that image. The Vedantic model describes pure consciousness, or Atman, as an all-pervasive field. It is limitless, observing the operational layers rather than being enclosed by them. The 5 koshas are not physical anatomical layers to be peeled away. They are 5 overlapping frequency filters where awareness gets caught, generating a false sense of identity. To maintain psychological stability, we have to map these 5 filters and identify exactly where our identity gets trapped. We start at the foundational base layer, the Annamaya Kosha, or gross body. This physical hardware is constructed from mire and sustained by food. This layer corresponds to Western biological psychology and neuroscience, explaining mental states through genetics and cellular structures. The identity trap at this level is the belief that I am my physical form. Human cells regenerate entirely every 7 years. As explored in Richard Linklater's film Waking Life, the physical form you inhabited a decade ago no longer exists, yet your quintessential awareness remains uninterrupted. When a person operates from this base layer, their sense of worth becomes locked to physical appearance and biological comfort. By claiming you are the hardware, you become a victim to the hardware's inevitable decay. Moving up the stack, we enter the subtle body, beginning with the Pranamaya Kosha. This is the vital energy layer, governing autonomic functions like respiration and circulation. This layer aligns with Western psychophysiological theories, specifically studies of how the autonomic nervous system drives physiological baselines. The identity trap here is claiming I am tired instead of acknowledging that the body currently lacks energy. Next is the Manomaya Kosha, the active processor for thoughts and emotions. It handles sensory inputs, retrieves memories, and maintains the ego. This layer functions like the cognitive loops targeted by Western cognitive behavioral therapy. We can also see this processor reflected in Freudian models of conditioned thoughts and subconscious drives. The trap at this layer occurs when a surge of thoughts triggers the claim, I am angry, trapping awareness inside a temporary emotional calculation. Your energy system and your emotional processor are designed to fluctuate. Fusing your identity to these systems ensures a highly unstable life. Sitting above the emotional processor is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the sheath of intellect and wisdom. This is the higher-order discriminating faculty that analyzes the outputs of the lower mind, allowing logic to override primitive impulses. Western humanistic psychology focuses on the optimization of this specific cognitive layer. Abraham Maslow's concept of self-actualization, the pursuit of creative and intellectual potential, operates within the Vijnanamaya Kosha. The same is true for Carl Rogers' theories of self-awareness and conscious personal growth. Yet, identifying completely with this layer causes you to say, I am confused, rather than my intellect lacks the data required to form a conclusion. Even our highest cognitive faculties are merely tools for the observer to use, not the observer itself. The architecture is completed by the Annamaya Kosha, or the causal body. This is the blueprint layer of pure consciousness. existing outside of emotional fluctuation. We experience this layer during deep, dreamless sleep. When body, energy, and intellect shut down, you exist in restorative peace. Western transpersonal psychology, through figures like Ken Wilber, explores this domain through states bypassing the standard ego. While many Western models fix suffering by restructuring thoughts or regulating the nervous system, the Vedantic model shifts the goal entirely. It views development as the process of recognizing your ability to transcend the limitations of every layer in the stack. The core rule of this framework is that whatever layer you identify with becomes your direct source of suffering. The physical body will age, and the mind will process anxiety. They will always have problems, because that is their biological and operational nature. Consider an attorney who spends his day utilizing aggressive emotions to dismantle opponents in a courtroom. His awareness becomes entangled in the middle layers of his stack. Because he identifies as the combative attorney, he may bring that aggression home, unable to distinguish his true self from the occupational software he was running. The goal is not to strip away these layers. You need your mind and body to interact with reality. They are highly effective interfaces for navigating the world, but they are terrible masters when mistaken for the true self. This framework leads to structural decoupling. When you shift your identity away from the operational hardware and software, you allow the systems to process data without claiming their output as who you are. Consciousness is the canvas, not the paint that is thrown on it. You can observe a headache or feel the heat of intense anger without claiming ownership of that data. Systematically decoupling the observer from the operational output creates a psychological space where awareness can remain stable despite the inevitable fluctuations of the body and mind.